approach we're taking is to engage the flow, to engage it, to learn it, understand it, and then reorientate ourselves so we can grow and improve ourselves through the process of engagement. Because if we avoid something, or we try and adapt to it, those of you who've studied the Bali system, the character structures are adaptations. They're adaptions to a growth stage. They're not who you are, they're who you are not. So we're looking for who you are. We're going to look for who you truly are beneath all of the adaptations, restrictions, and efforts to put a lid on you and your soul growth. So once we understand how it all functions, we can actually make better choices for ourselves. But until we understand how it all works, we're a little bit just shooting from the hip. We're trying to do our best. But with the material this week, I'm hoping you'll start to get a sense of the difference between being restricted and being free. Making your choice individually to live your life how you want to live it, not how someone else wants to live it. And that someone else can be your family, your mother, your father. It can be your society. It can be pretty much anyone who has an idea of how you should live your life. What we want to do is go beneath the control mechanism and open up what is actually your birthright, your spiritual freedom, your creative freedom, and your personal choice to live your life the way you came here to live it. And if we work with clients, that's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're not trying to help them adjust to society or even break through. Well, we want to help them break through challenges in their relationships so they have a better relationship. But even deeper than that, we want to help them find the freedom that is theirs to take. The choice that ours is to take, that we don't know we have. Relational energy healing is a combination of two skills. It's a combination of the astral work, the shamanic viewpoint of the world, which I'm going to go into in a little bit more detail, and which Bali is a living example. Right now, I mean, in 10, 20 years, maybe, we don't know, Sylvia, may have, the levels, I think, starting to go down as westernization creeps in and the big money starts moving in to buy up the land. But right now it's still very deeply in the land. You can feel it out there. Even sitting here, you can feel the spirit of the land. You can look at the lotus, you can see the butterfly, and it's right here. So relational energy work is a combination of that connection with the nature, the wisdom of nature, and our part of it, and etheric work, etheric structured work. So etheric is the structure of your energy body that helps localize you in time and space. So let's drill down that a little bit more. I'm keeping an eye on the time, so we're basically only going to work about 90 minutes, and then I'll let you have a brain break. Every energy healing system has their own model of what the energy bodies look like. If you go back 100 years to the Theosophists and the people that started talking about energy healing at the turn of last century, they have very different models to the ones we have now. This is the one I'm going to be teaching with. First of all, there's your spirit body, which is your spiritual identity, your formless spirit body. You can put whatever label on it that you'd like: your soul, your spirit self, your eternal presence. But who you are as a spirit being is what one of my teachers called your permanent personality. It's not dependent on your body. We've all had many bodies, body after body after body. And in that, each body has a temporary personality unique to that physical body. But flowing through all those incarnations is your spirit self, your spirit body. But in order to be here in the physical world, there needs to be a structure to hang, to localize your spirit body in. There needs to be a house in which you can live. So that's your etheric body, etheric structure. And there are lots of variations on the etheric structure. The Chinese system of meridians is part of the etheric structure. The chakras are etheric in nature. And the relational cords that connect you with all the important people in your life are etheric in nature. So etheric means something that's structured. Usually, right now it's invisible, unless we develop ourselves to begin to kind of break through looking at the world through physical eyes, and it's much easier to feel than it is to see. So what we're going to be working with is no expenses spared in this workshop, but we have a teaching aid here. These little fiber optic. I'll cut these off and have you then practice with these. This is what a chakra cord basically feels like. It's about that thickness, sometimes very more fine than that. So I'm going to have you practice with your physical hands as though this is the etheric cord. This is probably tomorrow, not today. Etheric is structured energy. You can't see it, but you can feel it, or you can relate to it, you can interact with it. Assuming you know where to look, and you have enough focus, or you build enough focus to relate to it. So our Japanese course was very much an etheric body course. And the astral part of the work I tended to make small, because for Japanese students it was a little bit too much. It was just too much. Even though Japanese people could track it and feel it, I wanted to keep it technical. The etheric body is structured, it's developmental, meaning that it comes online as we grow. Just like out here, if you come out in the morning, you'll see your the lotus flowers closed up, and then as the morning comes, they start to open. And same thing with the chakra. When we're born, they're in potential. You get to 10 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old, they're opening, and they're attaining medium maturity. Then you get to 40, 50, 60 years old, and they keep developing. So this is another reason why in Asia, older people are respected, because their chakras, their energy system, their consciousness system has absorbed more than a 20-year-old or a 10-year-old. There's more life experience available if they've done a good life. The third is what you could call it the emotional body. I call it the astral body. And these terms are pretty much interchangeable, with the exception that emotion is not just feeling. It contains a thought. It contains an intention. Probably a closer, more accurate description would be thought form. So if any of you have read some of the old literature on thought forms from the Theosophy and other healers, the emotional body is made up of feelings and thoughts that have a purpose. They're created in part by the endocrine system and the physical body. They have short lifespans, usually, although once you get you start getting into the energy field, you find out that these emotions can actually stretch across generations. A subset of the work we do is called heritage healing. The flow of emotions and patterns, family patterns, from generation to generation, passed on through a mother, father, grandfather, grandmother. So we'll probably get into some of that when we do the demos, because who we are as emotional beings is not unique. I hate to tell you this, maybe you already know. We are made up of emotional patterns from our family, from our culture, and a lot of what we think of as our feeling body is not us. It's who we think we are, or who we were told we are. So we actually want to start filtering out false snapshots of our emotional life or body, and find out what's underneath Actually, should be the other way around, actually, spirit body. The spirit body is the fundamental. The astral, the emotional, flows like a river. Flows like a river, constantly moving. The etheric is structured. Stays pretty much, but it grows developmentally. A river, the structure of a river is your etheric flow. The water in the river is the astral. Because we are emotional beings, and in fact all sentient beings have to some degree an emotional component, and we need to be emotional because it's the emotion that connects us to others. The emotion flows along the structure of the etheric, is responded to and bounced back, and then you are real. I call it relational energy healing because we are not individuals. We are relational energy fields, and we only exist through our relationships with others. But early in our life, we assume that our identity, who we are, who we think we are, is governed by who other people have told us we are. But as we grow, so now we're into 25, 30, 40, as we grow, we start to realize our feelings are not necessarily our own. And we have to slow down and go to the spirit body, go to your soul to find out what you really feel. So that's part of the structural work that we do with clients, or you do with yourself. You question, is this what I really feel? Is this what I really want to do? Not to drive yourself crazy, but to really drill down, am I feeling this way because men in my family have always done this? Women in my family have repeated this pattern from generation to generation to generation. Is this what a good person does, what I'm doing now? So we want to actually filter out the false emotional imprints and get closer to what the truth is for you or for your client if you're working. And then, of course, the last body, which we're all familiar with, the physical body. And the insight from Asia is that the physical body, although it is on a continuum from young, middle to getting older, the physical body represents an expression of the spiritual body. The physical body also, its health is dependent on the emotional body, on the astral. You don't have a healthy astral. If you don't know how to process and move your feelings, it will affect your physical body in some way. There will be not bad, but there'll be limiting or restrictions to your health. For men, classically, it's in the heart chakra. Most men die from heart disease. There's not enough opening and processing, especially in the West, of male feeling and male connection. So we tend to get it in the circulation system. We have to be a little careful with body symbology because there's also the tendency, especially in New Age healing, to equate emotional processing with full health. That you're not getting better because you're not doing your emotional process. This is wrong, because there are physical issues that do happen through the environment, not having a good diet. Environmental issues like radiation, for instance, that we're struggling with, Fukushima. Monsanto messing with our food chain. So all these things do affect us physically. Doing our personal process will not clear these issues. So we have to break it down and make the right healing choice for each of these layers of who we are. Ideally, healthy physical body with good nutrition and exercise. Astrally, feeling connected emotionally to others, to our environment. And we'll also talk about the emotional connection to yourself, the self chords. There needs to be an emotional connection flowing into who you are and who you feel yourself to be. So as well as relational chords to the other, there's also an offshoot relational chord to the self, a self chord. We'll talk about that in more detail. Yeah, none of this stuff is new. This is just what native people have known for centuries. We're just putting westernized words and kind of say, look how this works, this is amazing. And we need to listen to the Balinese, not to Monsanto, as to how it works, right? Or whoever else that is out there that wants to commercialize our lives. So, healthy emotional life, connected to others, connected to self, connected to your environment. One of the functions of my photography is that once a week or whenever I can, I put down my healing work, I put down my writing, website work, I say goodbye to Yui, and I take my camera and I go out to the mountains or wherever I am, Thailand or the Bali Zoo, and I switch off my thinking brain, and it's just me and my friend. And because I'm in a relational connection, or I strive to be in relational connection, so it doesn't always work, my camera is an alive being. She and I are taking the photograph with one other person, the person the camera is pointed at. So it's an alive relational connection. It's not just, pick up the camera, point and click. For me, it's engaging and clearing my emotional body and utilizing these same skills, but at a hobby level. But it's the same thing I use with my clients. Connection, tracking, finding what's happening emotionally, looking what's happening etherically, and then helping the client move through the illusion or the pain or the suffering and find their own way. Once the client or you or me reconnects with spirit, with who you truly are, there's a natural corrective response that happens in the energy field. And that's why we get results with our clients. When they reconnect, just to make it really easy, chakra cord and chakra healing is the corrective response to any distorted or undeveloped energetic relationship. And that's what we're here, to take that fairly dense sentence and make it practical for you, make it usable for your clients, for your own personal healing, for therapy, even for my photography. Same thing. Because sometimes my camera doesn't want to take a photograph. I have to do a healing on the camera too. So any questions or comments before we have about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to give you a brain break, coffee break. Oh yeah, that's true. I was the only person that didn't say what I'd done. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, I'll give you the snapshot version, right, condensed version, and then over lunch I can give you more detail. I never wanted to be a healer. I was a follower of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, a very notorious Indian guru, when I was in my mid-20s. And I was about to go to India to see him, and he decided to go to the US and open up an ashram in Oregon. So I went to the US following him. That was my Bali journey. I'd never left England. So I arrived in New York with $200 in my pocket. So from there, after I'd kind of worked through that and left that movement, I got involved. I started having spontaneous energy healing events, which means that I had a compulsion to work on people. And it scared me livid. Because I'm kind of like an ex-scientist. You know, I grew up working with fast reactor technology, doing radiation technology development. So I was not looking to be a healer. It's spontaneous. Linda talked about her spontaneous. Yeah, I was getting the same things. So I did what you did and many people did. I found a Qigong healer. I found a wonderful master, and I started doing Qigong and martial arts. Started with the hard martial arts, went to soft internal martial arts. Wanted to know more. At that time, it was the mid-80s, there was a lot of channeling, spirit, mediumship happening. I was curious but not drawn to it, but it was interesting to me, and so I went and sat with many of the famous mediums. In fact, one of my main healing teachers is also a trained medium, Rosalind Bruyere. Did a lot of study with Rosalind in the 80s and early 90s. But I wanted to my interest was to combine a therapeutic approach with energy healing. While I was fascinated by the Chinese approach and started to learn Chinese, and I was doing all sorts of. If I hadn't found the Barbara Brennan School, I probably would have ended up in China. Yeah, but Barbara Brennan had brilliantly, I thought, put together psychotherapy, energy healing, and spiritual path, and had mixed them together in a way where one supported each of the other two things. So I took the training. I became the class dean there, which means I oversaw, well, at that time there were 170 students, and I had a staff of about 25, and was part of one of my bigger teams at the end there. Left there in 2003, and I really didn't want to repeat my BBSH, big commercial healing school experience. I wanted to develop this work and share it with people. So since I left the BBSH work environment, if you like, I was a vice president, had all that kind of, all the stuff that went with that, all the politics that went with that. I wanted to take this into the field and see how it worked. I wanted to, instead of doing someone else's system, whether my master's, Qigong therapy, or Barbara Brennan's, or even Rosalind Bruyère's, instead of doing someone else's system, I wanted to find out what I wanted to share. So that's how this work has evolved. It's not designed for you to. It's not even designed for you to repeat what I'm doing. It's designed for you to find your access point, as I did. Yeah. So fundamental to my growth is how I approach teaching, which is you take from here, take from psychotherapy, take from Barbara Brennan, take from Rosalind Bruyère, take from Yui Wang. Yui teaches me all the time. Take from this, from that, and then you mix it all around, you process it, and you find out what works, etheric, structure, process. What feels right, what gives you emotional results, that's the astral work. How it affects your physical body. You've got to include the physical body. And we'll talk about that also. And when you do that, you get more clearly focused on your spirit identity, your permanent personality, who you really are. Who you are becomes more refined. And that's what I found out from my own experience. When I was 24, my teacher at the time, Rajneesh, said that, but it went in one ear and out the other. I had to go through the entire journey. I'm now 58. Yeah, I'm 58. I had to go through all those years to really listen to what he said when I was in my mid-20s. And he said all this in his own way. And every guru worth their weight will say pretty much the same thing. There's no new material out there. Just chewed up most of the time, but does that give you kind of a, yeah? The one thing I will say, though, and thank you for your question, the one thing I will say is that everything we do, everyone we study with, every life event adds life experience. And our job is to kind of filter through all the different aspects. How does it affect your body? How does it affect your relational life, your emotional life, your memories of the past, maybe trauma from the past? How does it affect how you make things happen? Because the etheric work, the magical work, is what makes things happen. And then, this is all the nourishment the spirit body needs to waken. If we don't do it, we live someone else's life. Because the emotional body tends to be habitual. This is for after the break. See, now I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Relationship energy fields tend towards habitual stability. So we'll jump into this after the break. But our emotional body, our etheric structures tend to stay stabilized. It's like our beloved lotus out here. It's been growing like that for thousands of years, or at least hundreds of years, till the last flood. We don't know what happened before the flood, but probably blooming then too. So we tend to get stabilized in a form only by doing a process that awakens and deepens can we get to the heart of what the lotus really is. And as we all know, the lotus is symbolic of the chakra system. The chakra opens and closes like the lotus. Any last questions or comments? And then I'll let you have some coffee. And we'll keep revolving around it and looking at it from different ways. And there's a little bit more I'm going to give you before we do some practical stuff. But this is our takeoff. This is the lecture that says, you put your seatbelts on, put your tables in an upright position. We're about to take off. Thank you for your attention. Have some coffee and 15 minutes, huh?